So, Mark, I don't know if you heard because it's a little secret nobody knows about, but we had two major cyber attacks in Las Vegas over the last couple weeks. Of course, I'm joking because this has been the big news. And this is a special show where we're going to talk all about everything, the crazy experiences on the ground, what happened, the fallout, what you can expect, what you should know. We'll cover all of that right now.
Did they try to unplug it and then plug it back in?
If you were on social media this week, you saw so many crazy visuals from the Las Vegas Strip. It started on Sunday with a cyber attack of MGM Resorts, and they were very slow to kind of roll out the information about what was happening. But by the time Sunday night rolled around, we found out room keys weren't working, a lot of systems were down, the players' accounts, you couldn't cash out tickets, and that is extended all the way through today. Although MGM, as of today, Thursday, September 14th, is starting to come online. A lot of progress has been made at getting back, but we saw some insane videos of long check-in lines. Did you see that Excalibur line that I shared on Twitter? A viewer had sent it to me. It snaked basically all the way out of the casino. I've never seen anything like that.
I didn't know that many people stayed at Excalibur in one night. Dirty Castle for life.
Yeah, I said on Twitter, our friend C-Note, who coined the term Dirty Castle, I said, I only know one person who would willingly wait in a 4-hour line to stay there, and that's him. But it was insane. There was crazy visuals. Jacob's life in Vegas, he shared Bellagio, very similar lines, so different experiences at different levels of hotels. But that was just the beginning. They were manually checking people in, meaning that there was no computer system behind it. So there was a lot of problems of people being given duplicate rooms, no real control on access to those rooms, anecdotal reports of thefts. So we will see how that all shakes out in the end. But you could see if you have 5,000 rooms in a hotel and you have to manually check people in with paper, how that all could get mixed up. And they had security escorting people. So just the check-in experience was crazy. We also saw issues with elevators, especially employee elevators. There was a picture from Vegas Starfish of an employee elevator at Aria where the radio was down. So they had a walkie-talkie in case you got stuck in the elevator. You would have to walkie-talkie your way out. A lot of craziness all around.
Yeah, I don't even know how they expected this to work, and I wonder if they've dropped the bag finally and paid these people so they could get things up and running, or what's going on. It's been kind of nuts, and I hope they take care of everybody that dealt with all of this, because I know that I would have turned around and gone to Laughlin or something or anywhere else versus that. Even I wouldn't have paid $500 to go to the Flamingo, but I would have considered a whole bunch of different options versus waiting 4 hours to check in, not having my lights in the room work, or have to call down to get that turned on, and then who knows what's going to happen with charges or anything. Maybe they end up getting some meals for free or something because of this craziness where they don't bill them properly. But everybody that dealt with it should get some type of future stay comped, something along those lines. They have to do something, because all these people came, they didn't do a good job of trying to warn them of this, and they showed up and you're hit with darkness, no machines, can't cash out, can't get rewards, and forever to check in. You don't know if the elevator's going to get you stuck on the way up. It's just nuts.
My favorite story came from Aria, that they had those electronic light controls in the rooms, and apparently the system that runs that was down, and so employees had to go manually up to the rooms and help people turn on and off lights somehow. I don't know quite how that worked, but that was my funniest story. But
Stupid.
These employees, man, they had to have gone through hell this week. You really have to appreciate every level. It doesn't matter what position you work at an MGM resort. Your job had to be very difficult this week, and props to them for trying to do the best for customers and trying to make it the best experience despite an incredibly tough situation. Their payroll system is even down. There was worries. I got an email from a Cosmo employee who was worried they're not even going to get paid, but thankfully MGM said that's not going to happen. They came out and said they're doing it manually. They'll make sure everybody gets their paychecks on time.
Somebody's going to have a handwriter's cramp right now with all those checks, but they should have gone to one of the 47 CVS's in Las Vegas and bought some flashlights and given it to people and said, here you go. When you get to your room, this will be your light for the night. It's just bizarre, all this stuff. And, like you said, everybody that worked there, I feel so bad for them, because they weren't involved in this. They didn't want this, and they got stuck dealing with it too. Just as bad as being on the other side, having to show up to work knowing it's going to be hell, basically, and deal with people that are very frustrated and upset is just terrible. And, hopefully they get a bonus out of this too, which they probably won't, sad to say, but hopefully they do something for them, some extra PTO, some counseling for PTSD that they get from this, riding in elevators, whatever it be. But it's just crazy all around.
So what happened exactly is the big question. MGM is a publicly traded company, so they did have to go to the SEC and say this was a material cyber attack. It had a material effect on their business. And what they aren't saying is that it's ransomware, even though it's been widely reported that it is, and that it is Russian hackers who compromised an employee via phone call. We don't know exactly how that happened, and MGM hasn't confirmed any of it, but enough reports have come out that seem like this is the case. We don't know how much money was required of them. We don't know if they paid, and that's why their systems have come online. It's been reported about it's going to take 7 days to 2 weeks for everything to come fully online. There's enough internal leaks that I'm pretty confident in this information. And again, we're already basically on day 5 of this happening, and things are getting better, which is good to know. But we should learn more about if they have to pay out, what they have to pay out. Companies do have insurance for this sort of stuff, but if it's your own employee and there's ways that they could not pay, so we don't know quite how that's all going to work, and we'll talk about that more with Caesars in a bit. But this does seem like a ransomware attack, and we still don't know what information they took and how that could compromise current customers.
Yeah, there's been a couple reports of people seeing weird charges on their credit cards that they used at Excalibur and other properties in the past. So you don't know if they're stealing that info and going to use it, and there's going to be all that stuff happening going on for months or weeks or whatever. Because once they have your credit card, you don't know until they actually try to make a charge on it. So that could, a year from now, they could get to your number and give it a try. So it's kind of crazy. But even if you pay these companies, which we'll talk about Caesars, who did and looks like a genius for doing so in a second. But even if you pay them, to stop them from coming back and doing the same thing again? It's kind of crazy. And then you're still trusting them that they'll turn it off. It's a really tough position to be in. For I don't know what I would do there. Would you pay it?
Well, what I've read is that the ransomware hackers generally honor their agreements, because if they don't, then it sort of collapses their business model. Because if they're going to leak the information anyway, why pay? And so up to this point, based on some security researchers I was reading, they tend to actually follow through with what they say. We don't know if MGM decided not to pay or if they got this attack and then they had to decide later on. We don't know all of the sort of logistics of it. Starting next year, they're going to have to disclose even more to the SEC about cyber attacks like this, but currently they don't have to. So what they've already disclosed is basically all they're required to legally, although I suspect a lot of customers will want answers. Their reservation system still down, their website's still down. You can call for reservations, but if you need to deal with any of that and you have any option to avoid it, do so this week. If you have reservations for this coming weekend, they will let you cancel them for free or just no-show. So at least they're doing that.
How are you going to get through to cancel them? I'm sure the phone lines are terrible. I guess just no-show and hope, like you said. It's just, I wouldn't go. I definitely try to change to a different place if I could.
Can you imagine going to check in, though, and they have to explain the resort fee to you as you check in? Because they're like, we have this $50 resort fee, and it does, the whole resort is shut down, but we're still going to charge it anyway.
You don't get any Wi-Fi, but cool.
Yeah, it's nuts, but a lot of craziness. I talked that I tried to do the Cosmo reservation right before the last show in the middle of this, thinking Cosmo was on a separate system or not really thinking about it. My reservation did show up. My offer is still there, and actually 2 reservations showed up because it hung, and then I clicked submit again, and so now I have 2 reservations plus the offer is still available. So maybe if you have comps,
room for sale.
Maybe it's time to book them, maybe because their back-end system isn't updating the offers as you use them. I don't really know. I don't need 2 rooms, but as Mark said, maybe I should make a few bucks and sell it to somebody else. So let's talk Caesars really quick. As the MGM stuff blew up, we learned that Caesars had a cyber attack a couple weeks ago. I think it was in late August, and they haven't confirmed that they paid ransom, although Bloomberg was reported that they paid $15 million ransom. They were demanding $30 million, and they ended up paying $15 million, which was paid by their insurance. This compromise apparently came from a third-party vendor, which is less problematic, I think, from the insurance standpoint for them, but they were able to do it. They did have to disclose to the SEC that social security numbers and driver's licenses were compromised for most of their rewards members, although the hackers say, as we talked about earlier, they're not going to leak it, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, isn't all that info out there already from the 4,700 hacks that have happened at Target and everywhere else in the world? I mean, I'm kind of whatever. Like I said last time, give me my free subscription to Experian or whatever that you're going to send to me, and and let's go.
It's insane to think, though, that the two biggest sort of gaming companies in the world, I think, MGM, I think, is the biggest. I believe Caesars is second. If not, just the two biggest names in Las Vegas, they're attacked by seemingly separate groups, according to all the information out there, within just a few weeks. And MGM has a lot to answer for how this affects their business long term. I think Moody's said that they may downgrade their credit rating because of this. And Caesars, probably has less to worry about because they did manage to avoid most things bad happening to them. And as you say, maybe they made a few bucks off the extra room rates. But this has to be having, hotel companies, travel companies really kind of shaking in their boots. We know that these ransomware attacks have been happening more and more often, but this was like the most visual reminder of this sort of world that we live in. And I don't think anybody would have thought that MGM would have been brought to their knees in this way before this week. So it really is eye-opening, I think, for the entire industry.
Yeah, I mean, all these attacks that we joke about, it's always like they take your info. They don't like shut down operations. The fact that they could basically flip the switch on every single process in the MGM properties is kind of insane when you think about it, and it blows my mind that it got to that level. So I have to assume that they came to him. I doubt they're going to be like, you know what, we turned everything off, now you want it back on. I have to think that they were like, give us the money or we're going to do this. And they were like, no, we're not going to do it. So that's my guess. Otherwise, it just seems like over the top, especially that it's gone on this long. You think that they would have ponied up to get out of it by now, but that's what you got insurance for. Just pay the money. Like we said, it's cheaper to pay the money, it seems, than to deal with all this backlash that you're going to get, and what you're going to have to pay out to employees and customers going forward is going to be a big number, I think.
Not to mention what they've lost as far as revenue, right? Hotel revenue, gaming revenue. We know most of their machines were down this week. No ticket in, ticket out system. So even if you wanted to cash out $1, it required a hand pay. So they had to have people scrambling around the floors. And most videos I've seen of the casino floors are empty, and that's because people probably are just going to other properties that are not MGM. Why would you stick around to deal with all of that? Even if I was staying in one of their hotels, which I personally would have canceled and tried to go somewhere else, although I understand financially that might not be possible, especially with rates going up because of that increased demand, but I still would just get off property. There is no MGM rewards. It's not tracking your gambling, so what's the point of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what if you're there and you don't really care about points or status or anything like that, then maybe you still play, but if you do care about all that stuff, you're not going to put in as much money or maybe any money, knowing that you're not going to get any of that money back that you get in comps or anything like that. So they definitely lost a lot on that end. And then everything else, people canceling rooms and like you said, so they should have just paid.
I think the hosts at other properties had to be pretty happy, because another side effect of this was if you were here on an offer, they gave you your free room, but you're not getting any of your free play or anything else. So I can imagine a lot of people picked up the phone, called the hosts at places like Wynn or Venetian or anywhere else, depending on which property you were staying at, and tried to maybe move their play elsewhere. Might as well get your credit for it. A mess all around. I think we'll see that this cost them a significant amount of money. Some people were saying the over-under 50 million. I don't really know, but it seems like it would probably be more than that in the end, but I guess we'll see as time goes on. They'll have a lot to answer in their investor calls and in future disclosures to the SEC. So hopefully we'll learn more about all of it. But as you said, Caesar's sort of sitting pretty, I think, considering how significantly they were hacked and then how they were able to just pay and not have any repercussions for the most part.
This is where like Resorts World needed to step in and use that big screen instead of doing things for Nico and say, hey, no line over here, get over here and get your room for $250 or whatever. And they could have packed that place instead of being so empty you can drive a semi through it at like 8 o'clock at night.
So there you go. Mark got his Nico reference in for the day. Let us know what you guys think about these cyber attacks and sort of the craziness that happened in Las Vegas. All the crazy visuals I showed you during the show. We usually release our new show on Fridays, but because we released this today on Thursday as a special update to the cyber attacks, our new show this week will be out on Saturday, September 16th, so look for that. All non-cyber attack related news happening in Las Vegas, and there's a lot of it. Don't forget to check out our Patreon, which is live as of today, patreon.com/MTM Vegas. We have no content up there yet, but it'll be up there as of Saturday. That'll be our weekly after show and our backstory and all of that. That'll all be there this week, and then every week going forward, we'll have an after show for you guys. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MTM Vegas. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.
I think Sean just gave everybody a big IOU on that one.
We usually release a show on Friday Oh my God. We usually release a show on Fridays, but this week's news show will be out on Saturdays. On Saturdays. Oh my God. Okay. We usually release our show on Stop laughing.